In the name of Allah, the most merciful, the most compassionate. The Quran reminds us, and whoever fears Allah, He will make for him a way out and provide for him from where he does not expect. Chapter 65, verses 2-3. This verse shines over the life of a man who was born in chains but died as a kingmaker. His name was Malik Ambar, remembered as the Ethiopian slave who rose to power in India, defying the greatest empire of his age. You are watching Religious Stories. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and tell us in the comments what story you would like us to cover next. Malik Ambar's story began far from India, in the rugged highlands of Ethiopia, around the middle of the 16th century. He was born with the name Chapu. His childhood was simple, tied to the land of his ancestors, but destiny soon tore him away. At a young age, Chapu was captured and sold into slavery. Like countless others from the Horn of Africa, he was sent across the Red Sea, into the markets of Arabia, and eventually carried farther east to India. His journey was harsh, but his spirit was unbroken. In India, he was purchased and trained, first as a servant, then as a soldier. This was not unusual. Many Africans brought into India at the time were used as soldiers, guards, and military slaves, known as Habshis. But Chapu was no ordinary slave. He carried within him intelligence, courage, and leadership that could not be hidden. In time, he would take a new name, Malik Ambar. As he grew into manhood, Ambar proved himself in the Deccan region of India, a land of warring sultanates and constant conflict with the mighty Mughal Empire. He studied warfare, mastering the art of cavalry, sword, and bow. But more than that, he mastered strategy. He observed how empires fought, how armies moved, and how the weak could outwit the strong. Step by step, the former slave became trusted, respected, and eventually freed. He rose through the ranks, gathering followers who saw in him not just a commander, but a leader who cared for them as brothers. But his story was only beginning, for Malik Ambar would not remain a freed soldier. He would rise to lead armies, govern kingdoms, and humble emperors. How did this man of humble origins, born in Ethiopia and sold as a slave, climb to power in a foreign land? And how did he hold his ground against the mighty Mughal Emperor Jahangir? Malik Ambar had been taken from his homeland in Ethiopia, sold into slavery, and brought to India. Yet the chains that bound his body could never bind his spirit. His sharp mind, his courage, and his leadership shone in every battle. Step by step, he was rising. You are watching Religious Stories. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and tell us in the comments which story you would like us to cover next. When Malik Ambar gained his freedom, he did not fade into the shadows. Instead, he entered the world of soldiers and warlords in the Deccan plateau of India. This land was divided into small sultanates, Ahmednagar, Bijapur, and Golconda, all threatened by the mighty Mughal Empire, which sought to dominate the south. Ambar joined the armies of Ahmednagar, where his skill quickly made him stand out. He was not just a fighter, he was a strategist. He studied the terrain, the movements of his enemies, and the weaknesses of empires. He knew that the Mughals, with their massive armies and endless wealth, could not be defeated in open battle. So he used a different weapon, guerrilla warfare. With small, mobile forces of cavalry, Ambar struck where the Mughals were weakest. His men would appear suddenly, launch swift attacks, and vanish into the hills before the enemy could respond. Time and again, Mughal generals were left frustrated, chasing shadows while their supply lines crumbled. Malik Ambar had turned the art of war into a game of patience and precision. His leadership won him loyalty. Many Africans who had come to India as slaves or mercenaries joined him, forming a brotherhood known as the Habshi soldiers. But Ambar's forces were not only Africans. Indians, Arabs, and Persians too gathered under his banner. To them, Ambar was not just a commander. He was a man who treated them with fairness and respect. In time, his reputation spread. He rose from soldier to commander, from commander to general, and soon, from general to kingmaker. By the early 1600s, Malik Ambar became the regent of Ahmednagar, ruling in the name of its young sultan. But in reality, the power of the Deccan now rested in his hands. Yet his greatest challenge was still before him, the Mughal Emperor Jahangir, who hated Malik Ambar with a passion. Jahangir would call him a rebel, a slave daring to defy an empire. But Ambar was no ordinary man. He was a former slave who would prove stronger than kings. How did Malik Ambar humble the mighty Mughal emperor? How did he expand his power and rule like a king without a crown? Malik Ambar, once a slave, had risen to become a general and now the regent of the Ahmednagar Sultanate. In name, he served its young sultan. In reality, he was the true power of the Deccan. His leadership, brilliance, and courage made him both feared and admired. But above all, he was despised by one man, the Mughal Emperor Jahangir. You are watching Religious Stories. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and tell us in the comments which story you would like us to cover next. Jahangir ruled from Delhi, commanding one of the richest empires the world had ever seen. Yet, to his frustration, a man who had once been sold in the slave markets of India defied him again and again. Malik Ambar's guerrilla tactics left Mughal armies humiliated. His cavalry would strike supply lines, burn camps, and vanish into the hills. Again and again, the mighty empire was forced to retreat. The humiliation cut so deeply that Jahangir ordered painters in his court to create insulting images of Malik Ambar, depicting him as defeated. But in reality, it was the emperor's armies that tasted defeat, while the name of Malik Ambar rose higher with each victory. Ambar was not just a warrior, he was a builder. He expanded Ahmednagar's armies, recruiting thousands of men, including African soldiers who had once shared his fate of slavery. He gave them dignity and honor, creating a brotherhood bound not by race or origin, but by loyalty. His enemies mocked him as a slave, but his people called him savior. He was also a statesman. He founded the city of Kaki, which would later become Aurangabad, one of the great cities of India. He encouraged trade, strengthened agriculture, and created a system of land revenue that gave farmers fairness and protection. He was not merely a commander of soldiers. He was a guardian of the people. But his greatest achievement was holding the Deccan together. For years, he kept the Mughals at bay, uniting warring sultanates under his leadership, forging alliances, and keeping alive resistance against northern domination. In a land where kings rose and fell quickly, Malik Ambar stood firm, a symbol of defiance against impossible odds. By the time of his death in 1626, he was no longer just a freed slave. He was the most powerful man in the Deccan, the nightmare of the Mughal emperor, and the protector of his people. Yet his story did not end with his death. His legacy lived on, shaping the politics of India, inspiring generations of Africans and Indians alike. But what lessons does Malik Ambar's life hold for us today? How does his journey from slavery to sovereignty remind us of Allah's promise to honor those who stand firm in patience and truth? Malik Ambar had lived a life of struggle, courage, and brilliance. Born in Ethiopia, enslaved as a boy, and carried across seas in chains, he rose to become the most powerful man in the Deccan of India. He humbled emperors, built cities, and gave hope to people who had none. But like every ruler, his time in this world came to an end. You are watching Religious Stories. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and tell us in the comments which story you would like us to cover next. Malik Ambar's legacy was not just in war. He was a builder, a reformer, and a visionary. He created systems of land revenue that protected farmers, ensuring fairness and stability in a time when peasants were often crushed by taxation. He built reservoirs and canals, bringing water to dry lands, and laid the foundations for the city of Khadki, which would later become Aurangabad, one of the great cities of India. His vision turned barren fields into fertile lands and scattered villages into thriving towns. But his greatest legacy was his defiance of the Mughal Empire. Emperor Jahangir never forgave Malik Ambar for resisting him. Time after time, Ambar's strategies left Mughal armies defeated and humiliated. Jahangir's hatred grew so fierce that he even had paintings made of himself shooting arrows into the image of Malik Ambar, a petty attempt to destroy in art the man he could not destroy in battle. Yet history remembers Jahangir's rage only as proof of Ambar's success. When Malik Ambar died in 1626, he was mourned not only by his soldiers, but by ordinary people who saw in him a just leader. He had no royal blood, no noble family, no inherited throne. He had been born a slave, yet he ruled like a king. His story proved that dignity and greatness are not gifts of birth, but rewards of patience, intelligence, and courage. Today, Malik Ambar is remembered as one of the greatest figures of the Deccan, a man who stood against empire, who rose from slavery to sovereignty. His life carries lessons for us all, that hardship can forge strength, that justice elevates leaders, and that Allah raises whom He wills, even from the lowest of beginnings. The Quran reminds us, and Allah raises in degrees whom He wills. Chapter 6, verse 165. Malik Ambar's life is a living commentary on this verse. He began with nothing, yet Allah raised him to heights he could never have imagined. And so we remember him, Malik Ambar, the Ethiopian slave who became a king in India, a man whose story continues to inspire those who struggle, those who hope, and those who believe that justice and truth will always find a way.